Expect the best used car deals guaranteed. Visit arnoldclark.com.
Welcome to Peter and Roughie's football show, sponsored by Arnold Clark. It is Wednesday, the 19th of August. Alan Rough, Tam McManus and Charlie Adam are here with me. Thank you for joining us on the show. You can like, share and follow us as you have been doing in your thousands. The audience we're receiving is absolutely fantastic. And on YouTube, you can subscribe. And it's absolutely free. Just hit the red button and join the football family. Lots to talk about. Celtic's European adventure last night against KR Reykjavik. Not exactly top drawer as far as their competition was concerned, but we will discuss that, and we will discuss who shot Charlie Adam. It's a big show. It's one of those shows where you think... Well, it's one of those classics, isn't it? Welcome to the programme, Tam. That type of thing happens, doesn't it?
I think that's a laptop hit the ground as well.
You would not believe it. We'll try and get Charlie back in a minute. Listen, there's lots to discuss. Of course, Roughie, it's great to see the Bulgin back, because he's been hanging about and hobnobbing with snobs at the Belfry.
Yeah, fantastic. Was it a two-day, or was it just down and back up again, or was it a weekend?
Yeah, I went down on Sunday morning first thing and played the Brabazon, and then stayed over that night and then played the PJ the next day, and then drove back up the road. So a great couple of days, and I'm running out of balls. There's so much water down there. Charlie's probably played the Belfry. It's a real test, a great course, but very difficult.
Did you play that par
high
three?
Handicapper.
The par three where you can have a go at it. Tough hole in it.
Yeah. The 18th over two bits of water. Oh, yeah. Disaster. But I enjoyed it. Yeah. Good to be back with the boys.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great to have you back. Obviously, it's nice when you can move up into the middle class but come back down and hang about with us, Tam. That's an absolute joy every now and then if you come back into your working class roots. Anyway, hi to Dougie Little, John Shue, Gary Adams out there in Ohio. We're always delighted to see Gary join us. Scott Callanan as well. Karen Quinn. Hi, Karen. It's great to have you with us. There's so many people who are our regular viewers across YouTube and Facebook. We'll give as many of you a mention as we possibly can. Of course, let's get into the meat and bones of it. There's lots to talk about tonight, including, of course, speculation of players going in and out, potentially at Celtic and Rangers. And we will discuss Derek McInnes's comments. He's had a hit back at Ron Gordon of Hibernian as well. But last night, it was a Champions League qualifier on the night when Paris Saint-Germain were booking their place in the Champions League final. Would you believe it? Celtic were playing a Champions League qualifier, and our reporter Gabriel Antoniazzi sums it all up for us.
Celtic cruised into the second round of Champions League qualifying last night with an easy 6-0 win over KR Reykjavik. Braces from both Odsonne Edouard and Moyel Yunusi helped the Scottish champions on their way, as well as goals from defenders Greg Taylor and Christopher Jullien in an impressive attacking display all round. El Yunusi was man of the match and looked back to his best, but the Norwegian winger wants more.
I'm an offensive player. I like to create chances, score goals, so obviously I'm happy to help the team to win the game. Hopefully there's more to come. Well, if I have to be criticised, I should score a hat-trick today. But yeah, hopefully next time.
Manager Neil Lennon was obviously pleased with the margin of victory and performance, claiming that the result gives the Hoops some breathing space with regards to recruitment, and it seems he's already turned his attention to next week's opponents.
I think they're two well-organised teams, and I've been impressed with Varosh of what I've seen them so far, so it'll be interesting to watch the game tomorrow. I think it'll be tight.
So it will be the winner of tonight's game in 7 days' time at Celtic Park, where they will aim to repeat yesterday's performance and result.
Well, let's not beat about the bush, Roughie. It wasn't a great team they were playing. I mean, at best, they looked as if they would be the absolute lower league in Scotland.
Yeah, it just shows you how much I know. I said there was the days of 6 and 7-0 games in European football have gone, but no, last night it never. But I think the two early goals obviously made it a lot easier for them. I was a wee bit worried about no fans in the stadium, because we know what like the European nights are at Celtic Park. They're absolutely the fans just make the nights, and it must have been a hard one for them to get through. But certainly with the goals freeing pretty slowly. It was good. You know, it was good result, and I think it's good the next game comes so quick as well. But it's still an absolute nightmare. They've got to play 4 games. Absolutely shocking.
Yeah, Charlie, it's a no-win situation. You know, on countless occasions when you've been playing European football, these games you've just got to get through them, but make sure you do it with enough, clinical finishing so that you don't get criticised for coming up against a minnow and failing to score enough goals.
That's exactly it. You know that the level you're playing against is not what you're used to. But what you had to do is get an early goal, and they done that Celtic, and then it was just a steamroll ahead on how many they wanted to get, and 6-0, you'd be delighted with that. Going into the next game, you just looked forward to where they're going to play, and I'd expect Celtic to get through this next game, and then tougher opponents going forward. But like Roughie said, I think four Champions League games it's incredible. It's tougher and tougher, but next year, 2 teams in Champions League will be good for Scottish football, and hopefully both teams could do well.
Big thanks to Brian Riley, who's just come on Facebook and says, yeah, Roughie says the 6 and 7-0 games are well behind. A thing of the past, he says, Barcelona lost 8 last week, Roughie.
I know.
Yeah, and I know, and Charlie, I'll tell you, this is a God's honest truth, and we've seen it on many an occasion going across Europe. This was how Roughie and I watched Barcelona against Celtic in the Nou Camp, because every time Barcelona went forward, we were thinking they're going to score again. I mean, there are teams that can absolutely trounce you. Have you been involved in a game, Charlie, where you thought, I wish the referee would blow the whistle because we're getting battered?
Oh, there's a few. When we were at Blackpool, we won the first game against Wigan 4-0, and we were top of the league for a couple of hours, and we enjoyed it. Next week we went to Arsenal and got 6. And one of the biggest games that stuck with me was we played Chelsea one Sunday afternoon on Super Sunday. The whole gear up Super Sunday, it's the main thing, it's great. And we're 4-0 down after about 35 minutes, and it could have been 10. We could not wait to get at half time. And to be fair to Chelsea lads, they took the foot off the gas second half, so it stayed 4-0, which was good. But that's what you talk about the top teams, the relentlessness. When they get 2 or 3 goals up, they want 4 and 5, and that's what makes them different from everybody else. They just keep going. They want to score many goals, and that's the attitude that Celtic had last night. They want as many goals as they can, and it breeds confidence.
Yeah, Tam, I was looking at the bench. I was looking at the players that were itching, no doubt, to get on. One of them I was looking at was Tom Rogic. Now, lots of people have their opinion on him. It looks as if he's in advanced talks to go to Qatar in a £4 million move. What's your thoughts on
that? My thoughts are, if I was Celtic, I would bite their hand off. I was having a wee look at his stats there. He's scored 8 goals in his last 2.5 seasons, 2 and a bit seasons at Celtic. I don't think he's kicked a ball since Brendan Rodgers has left. He's very rarely fit. Even when he is fit, you can't get 90 minutes out of him. Listen, there's been no doubt about it. He's come up with some massive goals, particularly against Rangers. And a lot of Celtic fans will obviously remember the goal that clinched the treble against Aberdeen the last minute of the game. So he's a bit of a cult hero, I think, with the Celtic fans. But if you crunch the numbers, Peter, in terms of what he's earning at Celtic, I think he's earning probably 20 grand plus. His output over the last 2 seasons has been very, very poor. 80 league games, he scored 6 or 7 goals. So I think get 4 million for him is a brilliant bit of business for Celtic.
I think you're looking at Shane. It's good for Celtic. I think it's good for Celtic, but also I think it's him and Ncham are quite similar type players, aren't they? So to have 2 of them on the bench, you don't really need it. So it's if they get 4 million, get him off the wages, and like you talk about. Sorry to interrupt. I think you're going to go with Shane Duffy here.
Aye.
But would be an excellent signing.
Yeah. Shane Duffy, £2 million loan fee. I mean, unbelievable. And then go and buy Turnbull for 2 million, who's a younger prospect, hungrier, 21 years old, similar. Similar player, can play in behind or play in the middle of the park. They're your £4 million for a guy who's not kicked a ball for 2 million for 2 years. So I think it would be a very, very good increase of quality into the Celtic squad.
Yeah, have you heard much, Charlie, about Shane Duffy?
Not only hearing that he sung a few Celtic songs on his holidays and he was enjoying himself, but I know he's a massive Celtic fan.
Peter does that, no, it's all right.
But I think, listen, if I'm Celtic, the problem will come down to his wages. Can they afford his wages? He's on big wages as I hear at Brighton. 2 million loan fee plus maybe paying half of the salary. You're talking another £1.5 million. It's £3.5 million for a player for a season. It's a lot of money for Celtic. It's not like it's an investment where you're going to get long term. The Turnbull one, I think, is one that I'll look forward to this season. He's coming back from that serious injury. Obviously, he's moved to Celtic, breaking down. As a player I like, I'm surprised that probably nobody in England's really took a snippet at him, only because maybe the injury, that waiting to see how he comes back from that. But I think that'd be a good signing for Celtic. Turnbull for a couple of million and Duffy on loan would be good.
Roughie, the manager last night, says, maybe buys him a little bit of time, this result, because they're waiting for the qualifier next week, so he's got 5 or 6 days just to assess the targets that he wants. There's no doubt he's looking for a left back. He wants a centre half. And again, Turnbull suddenly might come into the equation, as Charlie's alluded to there. But Roughie, for me, I think the absolute paramount signing for Celtic has to be a centre half, because it doesn't matter what he mentions after the game about Beaton needed a run out, so he put him in there. It's papering over cracks for me.
Yeah, Beaton's not a centre half for me. Not when you're up against it. No, particularly if you're away from home and you're wanting 2 centre halves to dominate everything in the air and be winners. He's not that kind of player. He's excellent on the ground. But not for me. And it was interesting, I'm talking up Julian last night in the papers this morning, obviously trying to give the boy a wee lift in that, but I still think it's not going to stop them going for a centre half. There's no doubt about that. And you're right, you need cover. If you're in Europe and you're playing all these European games and the league games are coming fast and furious, and we all know what's at stake this year, he'll want as many players as possible in the door before the real serious stuff kicks off.
Yep, and Marion Christie says, hi everyone, I agree with Tam. No other point, that's all she just wanted to say, I agree with Tam. So that's Celtic out of the way. By the way, it's not a prerequisite for joining Celtic that you have to be able to sing Celtic songs in the summer. I mean, it just doesn't always work out that way. I've seen a few duds who can sing Celtic songs. Anyway, apart from anything else, that's one half of the city. Across the other half of the city, Charlie, I know you've been commenting the last couple of days on the basis that you thought maybe some players need to get back up to fitness at Rangers. There's a wee bit of speculation that Leeds United are trying to tempt Rangers into parting with Ryan Kent for around £10 million now. I'd be surprised if they let him go. What's your thoughts?
Nah, they won't let him go for 10 million. If you start talking about the figures of a 15 million, close to what Morelos is, he's the best player. He's got the talents. They bought him for 7 million. To then lose him for 3 million, I don't think they would do it. But it's, stranger things have happened in football. But I think if they come in with another bid, if they do come in with bids and it's closer over 15 million, then Rangers will probably look at it. But Ryan Kent needs to come and perform week in, week out. I don't think he's been up to the level. I've seen him up at Aberdeen. I thought he was excellent. But against Livingston the other day, never really created too much. He's the one spark that they've got. But I would like to see him go and grab a game by the scruff of the neck in the next couple of weeks and show what he's all about, because he's a big player for Rangers and they need him on song.
Yeah, Tam, this is the worrying period, I think, for any club in Scotland. Stephen Robinson mentioned it to me a couple of weeks back when he said, it's fine, you've got your team, you think you've maybe got 1 or 2 little bits of the jigsaw to fill in, but this window is open till October the 5th, and suddenly English clubs could start to cherry-pick who they want.
Yeah, listen, I agree with Charlie. I think Ryan Kent's a very important player for Rangers. I think he started the season well. I don't think they'll let him go for anything under £12 million. Not this season. They can't. No, Celtic and Rangers can't afford to lose their best players this season. Different next season. If Rangers stop 10 in a row or Celtic win it, then I think you'll see a lot of players leave. I just think this season is so important for both clubs that you've got to keep your best players. And Ryan Kent's definitely one of Rangers' best players. And as you said, a lot of clubs will be worrying about English clubs coming back in and cherry picking their players, and managers live and die by their players, by their signings. And if you're losing top players, a week or 2 before the window, it could cost you your job. So there were a lot of worried managers hoping the window closes and they still get their best players in.
Yeah, I love the fact that when we actually get to the point where we start talking about players and how much they're worth, by the minute I can tell you, the minute anybody puts a fee on this program, YouTube and Facebook go absolutely crazy. There's one half of the city says 7 million, 8 million, 15 million, and then the other half goes, yeah, punt him or keep him or whatever. It's absolutely fantastic. I mean, there's the last one. Charlie Hamilton said, Peter, you'll need to check and see if Charlie's been on the drink. 15 million for Kent. I mean, that's the nature of it. But one of the things that I think is the key to all this, and I don't know if you guys agree, I'd written it down because it would be good to get an insight from you. Clubs are spending all sorts of money estimating. I think the English football has created a huge imbalance across Europe for paying exorbitant amounts of money, Charlie, for mediocre players. So I'm
Peter,
looking at...
Don't get me started. It's incredible. The championship in England is ridiculous. I could not believe with some of the players I was playing with last year and what they were earning. It's incredible for what they've produced. Yeah. And it's astronomical.
Well, here's my point on it. And this is what I'll get your thoughts, Roughie and Tam. I think more clubs should embrace, and I'm not going to say it's the Brentford blueprint, because it's actually a blueprint that was, developed and a movie was made out of it called Moneyball, where basically I think there needs to be a more scientific approach to when you're recruiting players. There's what's their assists like? How many goals have they scored? What
statistics?
All the statistics behind it, Tam, for me, has to be the way forward now, the way the game's going. I don't know if you guys agree on it, but I think there's got to be more of a statistical look at how players operate, what's their engine like, what's their medical record, and how many times they appear and how many times they get into that dangerous final third and produce. So give me your thoughts. Charlie, first of all, based on the fact that you're watching players with exorbitant amounts of money.
No, I agree with you. I think there's more to it. I think you have to, if I'm a manager, there's more to the game. If I'm going to sign a player, I want to see him face to face, speak to him, see where he's at what type of lad is he, doing my homework on him, what's he like away from the pitch. Social media is so big nowadays. You can sign a player through social media, or you could forget about signing a player through social media, because everything's on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, whatever it's on. As a manager, you can look at that and see what the type of character he is and what the family background. But the stats the stats are there and it's in black and white. So no, it's something you have to look at. All the clubs do it. It's just, do you take the gamble on the players on what they perform? It is tough to say every signing that you try to make is a gamble. But the way Brentford have done it has been incredible. They've produced players. They've sold players. They will sell players this window as well because of what they achieved last year. So I think it's a massive thing in the game.
Yeah, clearly somebody is doing it or goes through it thoroughly at Celtic, when you consider, Tam, that they have been able to punt more than a few players. I mean, I would say that for every Virgil van Dijk, I could rhyme off possibly 6 or 7 that have been poor, very poor. But, the rate of players that they're getting and the average over the last 10 years, there's a lot of money that they've managed to get in there.
Yeah, as Charlie said, every signing's a gamble, Peter. And if you're signing guys for £1 million, £2 million, you only need to get 1 or 2 out of 5 or 6 that are good, and you sell on for big money. You're never going to get every signing right. You spoke about some of the poorest players that Celtic have signed. But they've signed the Van Dijks and the Hoopers and the Wanyamas, and they've sold them on. And you only need to get 3 or 4 good signings, and that's always been Celtic's template under Peter Lawwell, was try and sign potential and sell them on to bigger clubs in England, and they'll continue to do that. And the Moneyball thing, I think, is interesting, because I think every sign is a gamble, but if you're looking at a person whose his output is over the last 2 or 3 seasons, he's getting 10, 15 assists, 10, 15 goals, he's playing 90 minutes every week, he's rarely injured. Surely you go into that rather than signing a guy face to face and talking to him and maybe gambling that way. Surely you look into his background and you get yourself a better signing. You give yourself a better opportunity signing a better player going forward. So I would be bang into the stats in terms of signing players, and you've got to meet them as well. But I'd be into the stats. I think Brentford have done it superbly well.
I think if you're a Rangers or Celtic player, you go to look at how to go and play in front of the big crowds. I would look to see, how do you play against the lesser teams? What's your attitude like? Has he got the hunger to go and work as hard as he does in one of the big games? People say, like, when a lot of clubs go, when they go to playing against Barcelona, or is going to sign a player in Spain or something, for instance, there's no point to go and see them play against Barcelona or Real Madrid because, for instance,
raise your game.
it's not. Yeah, you're going to raise your game. It's when you go into like your A bars and your lower clubs. Are they got the mentality to go to these clubs and be the best player and show the right determination? So listen, I think Celtic have done extremely well over the last few years producing players because they've had a consistent someone in the club that's controlled it. Now Ross is in at Rangers. I think you will now start to see Rangers developing players and being able to sell them. Listen, everybody's for sale. Doesn't matter how good you think your players are. Rangers and Celtic need to sell players if the right money comes. And it's good now that Ross is in there. He's got his own team there. He's building a scouting network now where they can go and get players from abroad and try and get these little gems that Celtic have done for a number of years.
If you were going to sell one, Charlie, who would it be? If you were going to cut your losses on one and say, okay, we'll try and get as much as we possibly can and take the hit and try and get other players to fill the void, who would it be?
For both clubs?
No, just for Rangers.
For Rangers? It's hard to replace 25 goals a season, isn't it, Morelos? I just don't, unless he sorts his fitness out and things like that. I would take the gamble and get rid of him and hope that Roof comes in and scores goals for them.
Would you play two up front?
No, because I like 4-3-3. I like the way Stephen plays. That's the formation that I like. I like to see Kent going and getting at people in that wide area, high up the pitch. I don't want to play 4-4-2. I want to play 4-3-3 and the overlapping full-backs. So it is what it is. But no, I think everybody is screaming out for two up front for Rangers at the moment. But I don't think I'd prefer the three of them going and interchanging.
Now, unless anybody puts their hand up and says to me they know this guy, just off the back of what we're talking about, Roughie, St Mirren have signed a guy called Christian Dennis. Now, if we're talking about stats, I know many a time, Roughie, and you'll be able to rhyme them off, many a time a manager or a chairman or a chief executive's come out and said, oh, we've got a great player here, he's a great hope, he's going to be fantastic. And it is difficult when you get down the lower clubs because they've got to scour the market. I know Jim Goodwin last week says he was interested in PSV striker on loan Joel Pirri, but he's managed to land a guy called Christian Dennis. Now, wait for this, Roughie. 2-year deal at St Mirren. He's 30 years of age. He's played for the likes of Stockport, Macclesfield, Chesterfield, Notts County and Grimsby. But have a listen to this, Roughie. 42 goals in 50, 31 goals in 38, 62 goals in 78, 40 goals in 54 games, and 10 goals in loan for Grimsby in 13 games. Now, it's lower league football in England, but boy, he's got not a bad strike rate, isn't he?
Well, he's a striker and he hits the back of the net. You're just taking a wee bit of a gamble that he can do it at our level. I don't know, Charlie will know the levels as you go down in England more than me, but certainly I'm sure Jim Goodwin's done his homework. I'm sure whoever recommended him has done their homework, and certainly the stats there prove that he can score goals, and where St Mirren are just now, that's all they need. It's worth the gamble. It's worth somebody coming in, and if they score goals, all they needs to do is score a goal every second game, and St Mirren will move up that league, and that's what he's working on. But you're right, but I don't know the guy personally myself, but I'll wait until I read the papers tomorrow what his best mate thinks he is, how good he is. So there'll be people out there who know him will say, "Oh, he's the one," like he's the man. He's maybe down the road or something like that. But we'll just have to wait and see who it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, Charlie, we're talking about St Mirren. This could be the man that stops them getting relegated. Now they could be taken away.
You could keep them up.
You could keep them up, Charlie.
Yeah, I had to backtrack after last week, don't I? I was saying they would get relegated. So No, I think, like you say, 30 years of age. These are the players that are worth a punt. You know, you look at a Vardy was playing at Halifax, went to Fleetwood. You know, Leicester paid £1 million for him. What a punt that was! These are the gambles that you take. You know, you live in. You know, it's nobody's ever heard of him. People will just say, you know, it's one of these recruitment things. And you know, if it comes and it works, what a gem it is for St Mirren. But I think these are the ones you're worth taking. See lads scoring goals in non-league and things like that. You've got to go and take the gamble. Unless you take that gamble, you'll never know if they can play at that level. So fair play to Jim for that. His stats are there, and his numbers are right. So yeah, good luck to him.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the key element here. I like the look of Jim's team. They'll be well organised at the back, Tam. But we could all see over the last couple of weeks he was crying out for somebody to get in there as a penalty box player and get the scraps and get the goals that they need.
Yep, they've started really well. You know, they've won a few games. Obviously, lost a game to Rangers, but you know they're really solid at the back. They're not conceding many goals, and I had them just creeping into the top 6. And as you said, if this guy can come up here and score 10 goals, then he's worth it. You know, he's not been on a lot of money. You know, he's taking a risk to go to St Mirren. He'll be on. You know, he won't be on anywhere near £1,000 a week. He'll be on under £1,000 a week. And for St Mirren, that is worth a punt if he gets him 10, 12 goals and gets him in the top 6. So good luck to him. His numbers are there. Obviously, he's played at a lower level than the SPFL, but who knows? He might come in and be a revelation at St Mirren.
Yeah, listen, I've always got to highlight the commitment to people watching this show. If they don't get it live, they will wait through the night as well and watch it at their leisure on our YouTube channel and, of course, on Facebook as well. But I thank Una Brennan for her commitment to our programme. She says, I've just come back from getting a tooth out. I'm on the bus right now and I'm still watching the show. I won't miss it. That's the kind of commitment we need, Roughie. We need people who, no matter what pain they're going through, will still support us.
Yeah, we're paying every time Tam comes on here, and we're putting up with it. So
I'm not sure what's worse, getting teeth out or watching us for.
Well, the good thing
we'll numb the pain.
Yeah, exactly. Una, I know you're in pain at the moment, but you know, it's well worth it, believe me. Also, Josh Robertson, and this is the good thing about having you guys on because of the experience that you've had in the games that you've played. Josh Robertson says, Charlie, what was your favourite time at Rangers? Was there a particular season or a run of games where you absolutely thought, this is it?
Listen, when you start playing regular for a club like Rangers, you know, when I got that opportunity to get Paul Le Guen come in the door, played Motherwell away first day of the season, 1-2-1, I got man of the match, and yeah, it was brilliant. But just the whole build up of, you know, going from a 15-year-old kid at school to then going full time and learning how to become a professional footballer, being around that environment, and never looking back really. I thoroughly enjoyed my time at Rangers. I love being there. It's a great club, huge club, and it's, like I said before, it's that pressure I miss. You know, day in, day out, you know, being, you know, at a club where you have to win every week. You know, you drive that mentality wherever you go. You try and get that into the club, and you hope that the players buy into it. But you know, when you walk in the door at day one at Rangers, you need to know about it. You know what I mean? It's different from when you go into other clubs where you try and breed that through the players yourself, or as a group of players, we need to get that winning mentality. But at day one at Celtic and Rangers, you need to know what it's all about, and that's the pressure that when you play at the big clubs that you miss.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you one thing then, and over the last couple of weeks, Charlie, we've all been in the office here. We've been searching everywhere. There was a great programme. It was a BBC documentary called Blue Heaven, where they followed kids who'd come in, and there was a magnificent photograph of you coming in the door with your dad and your mum.
Tell me I've got it.
Yeah.
Listen, I've got it. I've got it.
Get it up.
Well, we can't put it up because it's obviously owned by the BBC. But nevertheless, there was you, fresh-faced, the hair, the fringe as well, full of expectation, and a 3-year deal to boot. I mean, does it seem like only yesterday, Charlie, when you were doing that, going up those marble stairs?
Yeah, it was incredible, and you know, when I there was. You know, every time I go back to Ibrox now, I see the door and I just think of old times and what it was all about. You know, that famous marble staircase, and it was just, you know, a couple of years ago when I had the opportunity to start speaking about going back, is, you know, maybe an opportunity there. these thoughts come back to me thinking, do you know what? I started my career there. I wanted a photo when I started, and also a photo when I finished, and hoping I was going to finish at Rangers. Listen, it never happened, but it's there's special moments that you never forget. And I remember the whole thing, the Blue Heaven thing, really well. I've still got a videotape at home, and it's a great thing to be part of. It was brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's always a great lesson for people to realise that even professional footballers still hold on to their Betamax video recorder so they can put those old tapes in. So that's great.
I remember I'm from Dundee, so there's nothing's changed there. There's no...
still Betamax up there.
That's still there now.
Exactly, Charlie. Brilliant.
Ruffy's got a few. He's got a few videos, Ruffy.
I've got
that garage.
I've got an 8-track CD.
It's an 8-track tape player. It's not a CD. Yeah. The CD was
tape
invented.
Player, big chunky thing. Yeah.
Brilliant. I need to show that to kids to get them onto this. Anyway, apart from anything else, it is a good memory. And now, Charlie, I read that possibly Bolton was a possibility for you. Are there any developments you can tell us about where you are in hopefully kicking a ball this season?
Bolton is obviously, I played with Ian Evatt at Blackpool. He gave me an opportunity to go in and train there. I've been training on my own since the end of the season, really. And obviously, because I knew him, he just said, listen, why don't you come in and getting around the lads and do the fitness work and the games with the lads and get up to speed and see what comes up. I'm weighing up a few options at the moment, abroad and here in England, and that's it. And we'll see what happens. And in the next week or 10 days, I'll make a decision, and hopefully we'll break the news on here.
I was going
to say, you waiting to see who the new Barcelona manager is before you make any decisions?
Yeah, Ronald Koeman's already been on the phone. I just turned him down. I said, I'm not sure I would enjoy it. So I think they're going through a tough time. I don't want to go to a team that's struggling. So I'll pass on that one.
Yeah, to be fair, the last thing Barcelona need, Charlie, is somebody who can hit a 40-yard diagonal to someone's toe. I mean, it's all tick-a-tack stuff there. You wouldn't want to get involved in that.
I wouldn't enjoy that.
Exactly. The other thing I was going to just quickly say to you on that, you mentioned England and abroad. Would you be difficult to deal with? Is it beyond people's wage bracket if someone in Scotland was interested? I mean, if that call has to be made, somebody might make it, but might be scared off by potentially you're looking for big bucks.
No, I'm interested in coming back to Scotland. Like I said last week, I'm not ruling anything out. I want to go and play somewhere that I can improve somebody. I want to learn. I want to take my experience that I've got with a team, and I want a team that's want to go in the right direction, and hopefully push up a league or compete at the top ends of the league, and we'll see where that'll be.
What about your boyhood heroes, Dundee, Charlie?
Listen, I don't rule anything out. I said to you before, it's something that I've never ruled out. It's the thing for me is there's been no contact from any team in Scotland, and that's what I keep saying to people. I'm available to speak to clubs if they want to speak to me. If not, then everybody good luck to them, and we'll see what happens. But I don't rule any move out. I'm not that too big to rule it out. Wherever I go, I want to go and try and help somebody and progress a club.
Yeah, absolutely. Just on that point you were mentioning there about Barcelona, it looks as if Ronald Koeman, by the time the show ends, he'll have been paraded at the new camp as their manager, with the potential, Tam, I'm told, that maybe Henrik Larsson could be going in as a coach for him. Of course, Larsson had some successful times at Barcelona, winning the Champions League in 2006 with that win against Arsenal. But they need something, and we were all talking about players. I mean, it's a strange situation. The owner of Barcelona, or the president, I beg your pardon, has come out and he's just basically said that when Ronald Koeman comes in, there are 7 players that will not be on the transfer list: Messi, Ter Stegen, Longley, Semedo, De Jong, Griezmann, and Dembele. The rest can go if you've got enough money to buy them.
Yeah, Suarez. I was surprised at that one. Obviously, but Henrik Larsson might get a game with him. To be honest, he might come in and get a game.
Yeah.
Listen, I think Koeman will be there for a year. There's talk of Javi coming back. I think is he in Dubai or Qatar or somewhere?
Qatar, he's in Qatar. Yeah.
I think he's earmarked for the job in maybe a year's time, and Koeman's just to hold the fort for a year. So it depends how he gets on. But I think Javi will be the long-term successor to Barcelona.
Yeah, holding the fort, like the Alamo at the moment, just basically trying to stem the flow of bad stories coming out of the place. But it's going to take a massive rebuilding job. I just wonder if you're Messi, you think to yourself, maybe 2 or 3 years elsewhere, get out of it and try a different challenge. Because I don't know about you, can you turn things, can you think of a club that's managed to drastically turn things around, Roughie, and then suddenly elevate themselves right into a chance of winning the European football again? I mean, apart from anything else, I'm struggling to think of someone that can just transform it, from where it was. Possibly Bayern Munich, who were fourth and were not considered to be in with a shout this season for Champions League, and they could be in the final after tonight.
Yeah, I would say to a certain extent, because of the lack of success they've had over the years, Liverpool might come into that scenario. From where they were behind all the teams that were spending millions and millions, and look where they are now. They won the Champions League. So considering the history they had way back in the 80s, I think they have transformed themselves into the team that you're talking about.
Yeah, but that's over a 19-year period, Roughie. That's not over Ronald Koeman. That's not over Ronald Koeman.
No,
comes
are
in
you talking about in a year?
Kiki's.
Oh, you just talking about right away?
I'm talking a manager comes in and absolutely transforms it. It's a hard task, Charlie, especially when you've got players who are all 30 and beyond.
I think the club's in disarray. I think from top to bottom, the president is up for election next March. And he's appointed Koeman on a 2-year deal. And if he goes, then the new president might want to come in and change the manager. So I think there's more to it. PK obviously came out the other night and said, if it's time for me to go and the best for the football club, I will leave. And you mentioned players that are not for sale. Suarez has now been linked with Ajax to come out and move on. So it's a bit of disarray there, and the quicker they get that sorted, the better. And it'll be interesting to see what Messi wants to do. If he wants to stay, he'll stay. If he wants to go, he'll go. But I think Barcelona need to try and get something done quickly with him, because he is the greatest player ever to play.
Yeah, Roughie, here's a big blow for us all. I've been hoping. I mean, last night was surreal to say the least. Very eerily quiet is how I summed it up. The Celtic game against KR Reykjavik, but we need fans back in. I know that rugby is going to get 1,000 fans in a test situation, Glasgow Warriors against Edinburgh at Murrayfield. But we're in a situation where UEFA has just confirmed that the game between Scotland and Israel will be behind closed doors, that this is not going to be a test game. So yet again, what we were saying in this programme over the last 4 months looks as if it's coming to pass, which is I cannot see fans of any great numbers in a stadium this year.
Yeah. It's unfortunate, and obviously I know it's nothing to do with football, but some of the stories I'm hearing for teachers and pupils at school, mass gatherings in the classrooms and things that are happening there, that's another thing that's seriously going to hinder any football fan getting into a ground. I think people are now being more and more aware about not wearing the masks and how many people are all congregated in one room, all these kind of things. So, it's got to start somewhere. So let's see how they go. Let's see what they can get in a procedure in there that everybody can buy into. But certainly 1,000 in the ground seems great. But when you start talking about 40 and 50,000 travelling to a game and mixing and getting in, it just feels a million miles away.
Yeah, and the implications at the lower leagues in Scotland, Tam, over the next few months is serious in my mind. I was speaking to a couple of people who are involved at the top end on the boardroom of clubs in the Championship, in League One and League Two. They are facing, for the next month of testing when the players get back to train, they are facing £18,000 of a bill per month just to test the players that they have in an ongoing situation. That's without fans.
Yeah, listen, it's a real worrying time for everybody in Scottish football, particularly your lower league teams. Obviously, James Anderson gave a few quid down to help with testing. I think when furlough ends, I think obviously ends the next month or two, they'll need to start paying their players again. And if they're starting to pay their players again, Peter, and there's no money coming in, it's just a recipe for disaster. I don't see how clubs can survive, especially if you get a second wave and you maybe have to postpone it maybe a month or two. So, listen, it's very worrying. I think there's going to be clubs that are going to go to the wall. I think there are clubs that are going to go to burst. They can't survive. And unfortunately, we're going to see clubs going out of the game. It's sad.
Yeah.
It's
Peter,
not scary. Yeah.
I was going to say, Peter, the reason that the first and second division teams went for the 17th of October was because they thought they wouldn't have to buy the testing. They thought by the 17th of October everything would be rosy, everything would have got a lot better. They wouldn't have been able to go into the finance, everything they had to do, and possibly there would have been fans in the stadiums on the 17th of October. I think we now know that's not the case. So Tam's right. All these clubs who thought they weren't going to have to buy into all the testing and everything are now going to be again in a wee bit of financial trouble.
I mean, this
surely,
is not
surely
just
we could work it. Sorry, Peter. Surely we could work it if you're looking at League One and League Two in Scotland. The maximum that somebody's going to get is what, 1,500, 2,000 people in a stadium. So I think that we have to start motoring and going forward somewhere. We can't just keep sitting on the fence and saying, "Well, we'll wait." They need to keep trying. Like the 1,000 people going to Edinburgh. Can we try it at a different game at a game soon in, I don't know, Dundee United against Motherwell or something like that? We can only know unless we start the process. Instead of just keeping on sitting on the fence, we'll never know what actually is going to happen until we actually start to move forward.
Well, the point you're making is well-intentioned, Charlie, and I agree with you. That's what the clubs are really pushing for who are in the Premiership. The point that Roughie's made there, which I think is the key to this, is he's absolutely right. Most of the people I've been talking to in the lower leagues were thinking it's only going to be 18 grand coming back, but that 18 grand the second month, it becomes like a noose round their neck because they won't have a James Anderson, this philanthropist consistently bailing everybody out, Tam. So that becomes the big problem then, and we can't get round that. That becomes a problem once you go to month 2 and month 3 because they cannot generate that. They can't even have nights where they would have a sports night. They can't have hospitality. The shirt sales will not pay the bills. And unless you've got a wealthy owner, Tam, you're in trouble.
And how often are they thinking about testing League One and League Two players?
This has to be done on a regular basis twice for the players over the course of, I'm led to believe, correct me if I'm wrong, the players have to be tested twice.
But the biggest problem, Charlie, with the first and second divisions are most of them are part-time. So these guys are out working all day, mixing with all their mates.
No, I understand.
They're going to go to training at night. They'll turn up at 6 o'clock. I don't know how long it takes to get tested. And then you've got your training. Then they're going back to work the next day. Then they go back to work the next day and they maybe train twice a week. Then they've got to test again on a Thursday. And I suppose they'll be tested on a Saturday. It's just, and they're mixing with people. They're not in a bubble. No, they're not in the full-time bubble, all the players all being together. They're actually workmates. And then at their club at night. So I think that's another theory you have to get your head round.
Yeah, I didn't ask whether it was Roughie. I don't know if you've got the answer to this. Is it 2 tests per player per week? That's from Championship, League One, and League Two. I should have asked him that. All I got from a number of people was, look, this is going to be £18,000, which we won't have going forward as we head towards the winter months.
Just going in, for instance, when I was at Reading last season, when it was going through, it was we used to get tested on a Monday and a Thursday. and that was how it was. It was twice a week. The test, I think, at the time when it first came out, was about 120 quid a test, and I think they were testing 45 people at a time, twice a week. So it was a big, massive outlay. But like you say, going part-time clubs, League One, League Two, it's huge for Scottish football, isn't it?
Yeah, it is massive. And I wonder, Charlie, I mean, it's not just, apart from the fact that we rely heavily on fans coming through the door and the hospitality and all the things that go with it. League One and League Two in England, maybe not as much the Championship, unless, of course, they're not run properly and they're massively in debt. But League One and League Two in England will be looking at it and saying, hope this easing of the process and the lockdown in certain areas, apart from the odd spike which brings a region into a problematic area with a lockdown. I'm talking about Leicester. League One and League Two will be hoping that you can get fans in quickly as well.
Yeah, but the process there in phase 2 at the moment in English football in the Championship and below, where at the moment because I was at Bolton yesterday, I've been there since Monday. I got tested on Monday. They gave me a test yesterday because I was in the club, and they won't now get tested until I think it's the Thursday before the first game of the season. So they're in a phase now where they go a long period of time without getting tested. So they're obviously moving forward, and I think they're looking forward to get crowds in, hopefully, October.
Yeah, Craig Govan says exactly. You see pictures from schools and pubs. A second spike is incoming. No social distancing at all. It's a worry. It has the impact
Peter,
not just for sport, but lots of businesses.
Peter, obviously I'm in coaching at Braidhurst and at the school when I was in today at Braidhurst High, and I must say that the social distancing rules that are involved in the schools are very good. We are cleaning the balls. We're cleaning the young kids are not allowed to touch the balls, not allowed to touch the cones or anything like that. Everything's cleaned. It's small groups. It's 3-a-side, 4-a-side games. There's not a lot of people on the training pitches. There's hand sanitisers everywhere. I went into the classrooms, Peter. The tables are all spaced out. The classroom tables. There's no dressing rooms open. They bring their own kit in and they take their own kit home. So I must admit that in schools they are doing everything possible to keep this COVID, under control. So I know what you're saying, a second spike is inevitable or whatever. I can honestly say that the schools I was involved in today, and I was there last week for the rules, they are doing everything possible to keep this under control in the schools in Scotland.
Yeah. Just to clarify, I'm not saying a second spike is inevitable. I'm reading some of the comments that are coming through mentioning that it's inevitable. It's my fear that we get a second spike and a second wave of it. That's the real. A second lockdown would just absolutely kill so many businesses, never mind football. Lots of sport, lots of industries, more layoffs. It's the fear in the back. We're just slowly, tentatively taking these steps and hoping. Scotland against Israel, there won't be any fans there. It's a blow for us. The longer we go on at the moment, going to games and watching it, you know what it's like. It's like going to watch a reserve game. You can hear every shout. There is an edge to it because they are professional footballers, but we want to. You want to hear that atmosphere again. We took it for granted for so long, but it's a long time gone at the moment. Just a couple of stories that I want to get your thoughts on, guys. Tam McManus, I'm looking at Lyndon Dykes. He's now signed for Queen's Park Rangers on a 4-year deal. I know that the Aussie coach, Graham Arnold, is saying to Steve Clarke, look, we don't have games coming up. If you're going to pick him and play him for Scotland, don't make it a selection just to block him out from going to Australia. Do you think he has what it takes to become a long-term prospect at international level?
Yeah, I think he does, Peter. I think it's a great move for him as well, going to QPR. Good club in England, Championship, good level. Mark Warburton's a manager who wants to play football the right way. His teams play good football. And I think he's got the number 9 jersey. I think he'll be, a regular player down there. I think he's got all the attributes to do really well in the English Championship. He's big, he's strong, he's aggressive, he can score goals, he's got a decent touch, he works hard. So I think he'll do well, and I think we're crying out for that in Scottish, for the Scotland team, because we've not got a striker like that, Peter. We've not got, but maybe McBurney's probably something similar, playing at a good level, obviously, in England. But I think Dykes, if you're going to pick him, play him. Put him in the squad, maybe bring him on or start him.
The thing about it is, Charlie, I think he's absolutely made for the tier below the Premiership or a League One or League Two, Queen's Park Rangers, because there seems to be more of that style of player down south. We don't get as many of them up here. The old hustle and bustle guy that can put himself about, likes it physical.
No, you'll definitely get that in the Championship. Like we go, some talking about it the other day, that when you an English club, that you're getting good value for your money, taking players from Scotland. First and foremost, if you go and do your right background checks and what he's like as a player and as a person, you know what you're getting. He's going to come. He's going to work hard. He's going to be enthusiastic. It's a step up for him on where he was at Livingston, and what a great opportunity for the lad. If he goes and scores, a few goals there, then he can propel up to the next level. It doesn't matter because he's gone there. He won't get into the Premier League. He will, if he goes and scores a few goals. These English clubs will look at it and think we can nick them for quite cheap. So, great move for the lad, and amazing for Livingston getting £2 million. They've done well to hang on to as long as they can.
Yeah, absolutely. Roughie, this is the moment when we test whether Tam is compromised or not, because you know what it's like. You've been in that situation before, Roughie, and I've had to leather you for wearing your Partick Thistle scarf and throwing it up in the air. So Tam is now in that position because, of course, Derek McInnes has just popped one off at Ron Gordon and said, look, people in glass houses shouldn't be throwing stones. It could be you next who's behind the 8 ball getting criticised. He's talking about Ron Gordon calling for clubs to be docked points. Now, we've all had our say on it, Tam. We think it's a complete nonsense docking points for this whole situation. So give us your thoughts on it.
I don't. I agree. I think you should be docking points for people, and that would apply to Hibs as well. If a Hibs player goes out and breaks the rules now, in terms of what Aberdeen players done, I will be on this show saying Hibs should be deducted points. I honestly don't think there's any excuse for it now. You've had a couple of warnings from Nicola Sturgeon. I think that if anybody goes out and breaks the rules, goes outside their own bubble at their own club, goes to pubs and bars and risks ending the season, they should be deducted points, and the points should be given to the opposition who the game's been cancelled. So I agree with Ron Gordon. I'm sorry if that's upsets you. But if it comes to Hibs, they'll need to take it in the chin as well, Peter.
Yeah, no, it doesn't upset me. I just don't agree with you. I mean, at the end of the day, I just wanted to see if you were going to, stick behind it or give your old chairman
I'm not like
a good
that.
leathering on it. No, absolutely not. I want you to try and remain impartial and have a balanced view on it. I don't think you can start docking points of teams. Certainly not for the situation where a group of Aberdeen players, however misguided they were, decide to go into a pub and volleyballing goalies is premeditated, but not with the club's knowledge. Is there a case now where we suddenly, I don't think you can do it retrospectively, Charlie, but I certainly wouldn't like to see it come in as a rule where suddenly we're starting to dock points off teams.
No, I don't think it should be docking points. I think if we had this rule at the start of the situation where we started the season and said, listen, if anybody steps out of line, we will look to deduct points for your club. You can't just turn around now because Aberdeen and Celtic have gone past that stage, and then if anybody else steps out of line, we'll start docking points. That docking of points is gone now. I just think that each individual should be getting punished for their own situation. The 8 lads at Aberdeen get punished, and this lad, the ball and goalie at Celtic, is going to get punished as well. And that's what we can do. We move on from it. These lads have done their time. And we move on, and we hope that there's no reoccurrence of it.
Yeah, fingers crossed. It's all about opinions on this show. You'll get opinions on a regular basis. Delighted that Charlie is with us on a Wednesday and a Friday. You can subscribe and you won't miss any of our unique content that's coming up. Some big interviews and lots of prizes coming up you're really going to enjoy. I'm not sure we can coax. I'm going to try and pull every stroke we can, Roughie, to try and get Charlie up here for the middle of September for a special thing we're doing, which will involve lots of prizes being given out. But Roughie, I don't know. We're just going to have to wait to see if he joins a foreign club. Then we're in big trouble. We'll just need to.
You'll need to fly him over.
Somehow get over it. Fly him over.
Yeah, it's always a private jet. It's just waiting there for you, Peter. It's no problem.
Yeah. To be fair, To be fair, Charlie, we do know a guy with a private jet, but we're a bit scared to get on it at the moment, Roughie, aren't we?
Yeah, you're right. But I was going to say to Charlie before he goes, because we probably won't see him to next week, but he certainly ticks all the boxes at Thistle.
Yeah,
my old man was there for a bit.
Before you make any decisions.
My old man was there for a bit, and he loved it. I think he was there for about 10 games or something like that. He played, and he loved it. He was there with Chick and Alan Denny and people like that, and he said it was a great club to be part of. And you know, it's these teams need to be back trying to challenge again and being in the Premier League, because the history of Partick Thistle and things like that, they're great for Scottish football.
Roughie's played his hand.
Yeah, he's absolutely. I just need to ask you this, Charlie, and I don't know, but I'll hold my hands up to it. And I don't mean it as any disrespect, but the amount of people that I speak to, especially up in the Dundee area, who absolutely have nothing but praise for your dad. They loved him. They thought he was a great character. What style of player was he? I mean, Roughie might be able to chip in here, but what style of player was he?
He was a ball player. He would like to play from midfield. He could play midfield, play centre back. He was a good passer of the ball. You know, but he was always a threat at set plays. That was something that he always reminded me that he was always a better head of the ball than I was. But no, I think I think off the field was his issue. Do you know what I mean? He loved to beer with his mates after training, and you know, Jim McLean used to phone the local pub and say, "Is he in again?" And he'd always have somebody watching him. So, you know, his career just never took off the way it probably should have, and that's through ill discipline away from the game, and you know, it cost him a good career. But he enjoyed what he'd done. You know, your Arbroaths and Particks and Forfars and Brecon and things. I loved that going to St Johnstone. They were great times for him.
Yeah. Do you think that lack of discipline in him maybe is something that drove you on to be the polar opposite?
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you'd seen my dad, me as a young kid shouting at the sides on a Sunday afternoon, rain, sunshine, whatever, on at me every day, you know, you're not doing this, doing that. It drove because he knew that he never fulfilled what he had, and you know, I owed him a lot for that, because he drove me to be what I am today. And I hope that as a player, I try to drive these young players now and learn them and help them mature into men and learn the game and make sure that you fulfill your potential, because there's a lot of players that don't. You know, Tam's played with a lot, and it's sad to see, but if you show the right dedication and the attitude, you know, you're halfway there.
Well, I have to say, and I'm not blowing your trumpet, Roughie, but I certainly know that the time we came down to Blackpool and actually shared your story with yourself and your dad, and all the messages that you put out on that programme certainly helped a hell of a lot of people who go through very difficult times, the trauma that you went through. And that programme for me just really kind of set the bar for a lot of people to be able to talk about things. It's one that if you look back on our YouTube, the archives, it was just a great time. And of course, the other thing about it really that made the night was you picked up the tab, which Roughie couldn't believe when we eventually got to when we eventually finished our
steak and chips both for them as well, Tam.
Well,
I can imagine. Roughie went to get steak if you weren't paying. Last night to get a set meal.
None of your belfry food here, by the way. We were down to earth. We didn't want to rip the back end out of it as Charlie got into his Pimp My Ride vehicle and just waved to us as we waited for the bus with the camera. Listen, I've got to get your opinion, guys, on tonight's game, which is absolutely fantastic. I think it'll be an absolute cracker. Lyon against Bayern Munich. Tam, Roughie's got a smile on his face because, you know, a week ago I thought his team were getting pumped out. They were about 2 minutes away from an exit in the Champions League. Somehow they turned it around. PSG are in the final. Who are they going to be playing?
Bayern Munich, 100%. Bayern Munich are too strong for Lyon. Lyon have done really well. To get to where they are, done phenomenally well, to be honest. They've beat some big clubs, Juventus, Man City, but Bayern will be too strong for me. I think Bayern will go through by a couple of goals.
Charlie?
Yeah, I totally agree with Tam. I think it'll be the clash of the fittest really with these two teams, both quite dynamic teams, want to go and I'll be right at it. But I think Bayern's quality will take them through, and I think they're 3 or 4-0.
Yeah, and who's your tip to win it, Charlie?
I think Bayern will beat PSG. I think they will. I think they'll be too strong for them, too powerful. And I think that the Bayern are the favourites now to go and win it if they can get through tonight.
Yep, okay. Roughie, I'm going to ask you now, Bayern or Lyon to win it. And there's a great question, Roughie, which I looked at. There are sometimes when you look at the paper or a headline that's on a website and you think you can answer it with a yes or no right away. And the headline was, is Neymar finally winning over the doubters? And I just looked and I thought of Neymar and I went, no. He's not in my book. He's my least favourite world superstar.
Yeah, but again, he's one of these players. If he was in your team in a final, you would expect him to do something a wee bit special.
He was brilliant last night,
and that's what they'll be hoping.
But
I agree with Charlie. Bayern are the favourites, but on the night, you never know. So I'm still hanging in there for the 4th year in a row that PSG. This is a year.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Listen, by the time we get to next week, Charlie Adam, we could be saying, hey, Charlie Adam, Barcelona's midfielder, has signed a 3-year deal. Ronald Koeman's always been a big admirer of him. We're soon to find out. They've got 10 days before Charlie eventually puts pen to paper somewhere, and unless Roughie has a secret stash somewhere.
I'll just add that Partick Thistle are gutted by his decision. We matched the terms. We pushed the boat out. We've done everything we could.
I'm not sure I wanted to live in Maryhill.
now, hang fire! You've upset the Paisley buddies last week.
Oh.
Now you don't want to live in Maryhill.
No.
You're slowly
No.
limiting your options.
It's a great place.
Hear the shovel coming.
Yeah, there it goes. There you go. Charlie, right at the death. It's a great place to live. Anyway, apart from anything else, thank you very much to the thousands of people just obviously giving us their thoughts on all the issues we've been talking about today. Will we have a situation tomorrow where we're talking about Rogic to Qatar, Ryan Kent to Leeds? Could there be a David Turnbull move from Motherwell? All those things will become apparent as we get closer and closer to the window closing of the transfer window. And of course, as we get to the weekend, Charlie will be back with us on Friday to give us his thoughts on the weekend's games. And the predictor, Tam, you missed it on Monday, but you're ahead, but you're not way out in front, son. I'm tracking you down.
Oh, what a weekend! What a couple of weeks I've had. I need to start putting money on Peter.
Yeah,
Maybe catch up with Charlie Adam in the cash stakes if I put the correct scores on.
Yeah, you've been blistering, but you're only picking up the odd 2 points here and there. Suddenly, Roughie is in third place. Roughie's third. He's a shocker.
I had two
yeah,
one each.
I'm quite happy to finish second as long as
in the last minute.
Oh. Well, that's the key to it all. The loser buys a meal for everyone, and Roughie has been on the receiving end of losing quite a considerable amount of money over the last 8 years. So the head-to-head continues. Listen, it's all about opinions. You'll get them on the show. Like, share, and follow us on our Facebook. And, of course, if you get a chance, hit the red button on YouTube and subscribe to our channel. You'll get lots of unique content, live from games as well. And there's some big prizes on the way. That's all coming up on PLZ Soccer. Thank you very much to all of you on YouTube and Facebook today for your comments. We really value your contribution. From Charlie Adam, Tam McManus and Roughie, and myself, Peter Martin. Thanks for watching.
Expect the best used car deals guaranteed. Visit Arnold